Welcome to Dance with Disease. My name is Ren. In 2016, my index finger started wiggling, which is great if you're training a dog, but I don't have a canine companion. And then the word Parkinson's came into my life. I knew from the beginning that this was not the downward spiral of doom as guaranteed by the brochures, but a kick in the ass to look at my life and change. This podcast is dedicated to sharing my magical journey of healing through trying every alternative therapy imaginable. Thanks for joining me. Let's dance.
Morning, friends. It is 6 o'clock. I've been up for an hour and a half. Over the last few months, I haven't updated the podcast because it's been, and last year was difficult. But I'm on the rise. So many exciting things are happening. I think the biggest thing for me is that I feel that I had to go through a real difficult time last year in order to be on the rise again myself now. And what that means is that I've taken responsibility for my healing, my recovery. I was waiting for the magic bullet and doing all the spiritual work without acknowledging the body. And the body has needs too that are connected to the spiritual for sure. But I can't ignore the body. The body has needs and the body. So long story short, I am dabbling in the Western allopathic system by taking a small dose of levodopa. And I hate that word. I hate that title because I have so many associations of downward spiral of doom. I mean, I have hated it. I'm not as afraid of it anymore because it's changed. It's given me the freedom to be able to engage in the spiritual journey in a much easier. And as a short-term intervention, I'm all over it. I don't plan to stay on it for a long period of time because the long-term side effects are ugly. But for short term, I'm in, and we'll see what happens. But I feel very confident that it's the step in the right direction. And that was huge for me to be able to put away my ego and all the fear that I had around it, and just allow myself to suffer less. I think that's important. It's really, really important. So, and what's come out of it? So over the last couple of years, I've been meditating daily. And what has come out of it is I'm not triggered as much. Like the hugest part of this journey right now for me is just knowing that I have this inner core strength from the daily practice of meditation. So things that would trigger me in the past. So for example, my mother was a huge trigger, and I resented her for most of my life. I don't anymore. So she can be herself. So for example, she has friends that smoke a lot of weed. She goes over there and I think she's afraid of marijuana herself, even though she was an alcoholic for most of her life. She's afraid of marijuana, so she doesn't smoke marijuana, but she gets high from the secondhand smoke. So she comes back just blissed out. And initially, like a couple of years ago, I was like, she's drinking on my property. And I had all this ego battle. But recently, she came back and she was blissed out, and I'm like, all right, she's not going to destroy my life. She's just experiencing life in her own way. She doesn't want to smoke weed. She's like I say, I interpret that she's afraid of it, despite her getting blissed out from it. And she's not going to destroy my life. So I'm not triggered by her. I'm not triggered about world political and or national events, or my wife, or I just don't get as triggered. I'm just way more grounded, and that is liberating. I've got the ability now to see that I'm being guided. Like the turn of events in my life recently, in the last couple months, have been profoundly nurturing and profoundly give me a sense of safety and security and being loved. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And it was all, the turning point for me was Farah's guru said, go see a doctor. He said doctor is God. I mean, he's an old Indian dude, which that's hard for me to grasp, but I'm trying to see it from his perspective. Anyway, so I trust him. I trust his intuition or his connection to source, and that's brought on all this positive change. And so I'm saying yes to the world more, yes to what comes in front of me, and I'm developing new friendships, new associations with different peoples. So I came up with an expression this morning. In our polarized environment of the world at the moment, there's a tendency for people of all stripes to shit on each other. And someone may be an asshole, but shitting on an asshole is still shitting on someone. It doesn't bridge gaps. It doesn't build community. It doesn't help anybody heal and see your point of view if you're just negatively describing or treating them poorly. So I just want to put that out there. If you're shitting on an asshole, I mean, the language it's all I got for language at this moment. But shitting on an asshole is still shitting on someone. And for us to really keep in mind that if we are going to participate in the bridging of gaps which are widening, then we have to be careful that we see each other as people. So, for example, I have a negative experience with multiple neurologists because I felt like the behavior of these people is incredibly dehumanizing. I'll save you the details, but it just gets me, it got me angry and still can trigger me a little bit because it's like, you're dealing with people's lives and you're dehumanizing them, pathologizing every aspect of their lives. That's just stupid, and it's ineffective and lazy. Where the human experience is incredibly complex, and not to isolate a group of, or to isolate single events or affectations that a person is experiencing and categorize them into one labeled experience, for lack of better words. I ran out of vocabulary. So to label them all one thing is just lazy. Like, 'cause the person may have had that affectation or that behavior before this whole experience, and to say it's all one thing, I just have no tolerance for ignorance. I have no tolerance. Here I'm saying bridge the gap and don't shit on an asshole. But it's when you're dealing with people's lives, it's when people give away their power to the system, and you know that they're giving away your power. It's important that you're kind and you're conscious with your language and you're conscious with how you treat people, and that goes for all of us. So I went into this meeting with this neurologist with because I get all wound up that they're going to try to, in my mind I have gotten wound up, they're going to try to institutionalize me or try to take control of my life. And it's not the case, and I went in with a different mindset to bridge the gap, and I was successful. I stated my boundaries because I'm not big on doom and gloom language. Doom and gloom doesn't serve us, because if someone else can recover, so can you, so can I. That's just the reality. But yes, there's no data, or it hasn't been studied. Like, many times this doesn't get studied in a lab, but life isn't a lab. I mean, it is a laboratory of our own, but life is messy, life is complicated, life is got many variables that can't be reproduced in a laboratory. They just can't. So to say it's not studied, don't listen to that ignorant nonsense, because it may not have been studied. But that person that recovered from terminal cancer or Parkinson's or organ prolapse or whatever that is, they recovered, and their life experience has value. Yes, it wasn't studied. Well, you can't study an entire person's existence. You just can't. But what we can do is take the elements that resonate with us and incorporate them into our own life experiment, because that's what this life is. It's an experiment. And yeah, it's nice to embrace the scientific method or science as a modality without getting trapped in the ego that can quite often debilitate scientific study. I mean, and that's the human existence too. Scientists are people, but they're not God, despite what Forrest Guru said. So, yeah, I made a connection with this man. To see him, and what I realized is that I was blaming him as this neurologist, or he's a gerontologist actually. So, as a 51-year-old, I'm dealing with a person that's normally dealing with 65 and up. I'm the youngest patient he's ever had, which is great because he's just he's the most human. I said before, and I'm sort of backtracking on myself, but I said before that he's the most human neurologist I've ever met. But that's a low bar because people are so guarded. And but anyway, he lowered his guard more, and we connected as cyclists. So I have this incredible positive karma with cycling. It was such a big part of my life for so long, and I keep meeting up with people, other cyclists, and it's nice to be able to acknowledge that part of myself now, and not be afraid that it's going to take me down this rabbit hole of obsession and distraction like it did in the past. Anyway, so I connected with this man. I went in with the mindset to bridge a gap, and it paid off. I mean, because I allowed him to be a human. I allowed myself to get over this judgment I have of people in that world, and I gave him permission. I took my power. I stepped into my power as a human that we all have, to accept that I'm human and the person that I'm dealing with is human. I think that's really important. I've gone on many tangents here, but I guess and so in taking my power, and taking my power was also part of going on the drugs. It's a light dose, but it scares the hell out of me, the long-term side effects. So it made me take more responsibility for my entire physical experience in this plane of existence. And in doing that, I've reached out to and decided to pursue theories of my own of that there's a sound, a frequency, a cadence component of this healing journey. And so I measured the tremor frequency at 280 to 288 beats per minute. And in that journey, I've spoken to multiple nerdy music people, one of which was including a man in Regina, Rob Bryanton, really brilliant guy, which put me on to trying to connect the dots with. It put me onto him, and then put me onto my buddy Stefan Bostansky, and all these nerdy folks, and myself, and my brother, who's also very nerdy. I consider myself a nerd as well. So I'm at the place right now where I'm going to explore physio-acoustic therapy. I contacted a company in Susanna Long of So Sound chairs in Colorado, and I am going to bring a physio-acoustic chair into my home, because there's been great results done with a study, and I was anti-study for a while with this modality on people with this that are experiencing the symptoms of Parkinson's, like myself. Over a 12-week study, there was a great success. So the challenge with these studies is that people get great success, and then after 12 weeks they go home and they live their lives. They don't pursue this modality even though they saw great results. The challenge, I think the challenge is for people to rearrange their lives. My life is fully rearranged around this condition to heal, and so be it, right? So my feeling is if I make the effort now, then I'll save myself years, decades of suffering through this condition as it it follows the traditional path. If you follow the traditional path of treatment, you're going to follow the traditional path of result. That's just the reality. And Einstein said, if you keep doing, the definition of insanity is you keep doing the same thing expecting different results, you're insane. I agree. So the purchase of this chair, God, it's going to be $8,000. I have no idea. But the thing is, I have no idea where the money's going to come from. That was almost my annual income last year. But I know the money's going to come. I just feel so confident that I'm going to be looked after. And it will provide me with more energy, more mobility, and a better mindset to really overcome this. Well, overcoming is a part of it, but to really embrace this experience to the fullest and draw the gifts from it. Well, I think I distracted myself, but to embrace, to get the gifts and then to let it go. To get the gift and let it go. And on that note, my friends, thank you for listening. I'll keep you posted. I've certainly got more energy and more vitality now to be able to make more podcasts. But yeah, I'm jacked. Physioacoustic therapy, check it out. And once I get my chair, which should be in the next couple months, then come visit. Come try it out. I think it's going to be profound. Music is everywhere. We are made of vibrations. And I'm sending you loving vibrations now. Have a wonderful day. And stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to the Dance with Disease podcast. My name is Ren. It's been a pleasure to have you here today. For more podcasts and the films, Dance with Disease, log on to YouTube, Ren the Artist. See you next time.